Well, hey guys, and welcome back to Bridge the Gap. My name is Jessica Likewise, and I'm the CEO of Hope Education Services. I've been working with children with autism for 12 years, and a few weeks ago, I had this idea to bring people with autism and autism professionals together so people with autism can tell us what we're getting right, what we're doing wrong, and clarify on assumptions we're making that just may not be true. And I'm so excited to share that it is being well received by the autism community. In fact, one of our guests today is someone with autism. She reached out to me, said she's found the show, she's been watching it, she loves it, she wants to be a guest. A friend of hers who has autism shared it with her. And guys, it looks like it's working. This is what it's all about. So thank you so much if you tune in every week, if you watch these episodes, if you share them. This is about bringing together a community and creating unity, creating acceptance and understanding. So I'm so excited to welcome today's guest on the call. She comes from New Jersey, just like me. She's a Jersey girl, a little bit further south. I think she's getting rain tonight and I'm snowed in, so a little jealous on her about that. But I'm so excited to welcome her onto the call. She is an adult who's living with autism. She also is a paraprofessional and she works with children with autism, which is amazing. And one of the things I find is that people who have special needs tend to like to give back to the special needs community, which I think is so incredible and so powerful. So I'm inviting her on tonight to share her story. Michelle Vinokurov, thank you so much for coming on, and it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me on, Jessica. I'm really thankful that to be able to gonna be able to share my story with you and stuff, and with other professionals and everybody on here.
Awesome, thank you. So you reached out to me and you said that you have been watching the show, that you like it, and I'm going to ask you, what do you like most about it? Because I want to really highlight that and really figure out what is working with what we're doing, and then also, what do you want to see more of?
So what I really like is that how we're bridging, like, not just like we're bridging the adults that live with autism, because you don't know, like, everybody has like a different story that's coming from and stuff, because with autism it's so complex that you have like all different ranges of people that and their own stories and experiences. And what it is that I like how, like, with a professional like you, that like we're reaching out to the community to know that, like, what do we want to do better, what do we want to help, like, grow, like helping children grow, so that way they can like students with autism can grow in their own ways to be functioning adults in their own ways, like with their own skills and strengths.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest, like, I have a master's degree. I'm one course away from finishing a second master's degree in ABA. And I can tell you that, like, I've been doing this for 12 years. This has been the best professional development that I've ever done in my entire life. And I'm looking back and I'm like, why didn't I think about this before? Just to talk to people with autism if I wanted to learn about autism. I mean,
Right.
you can read books and you can read reports, but like when you actually talk to someone and ask them, hey, what is it like? It's
Mhm.
such a different experience. And you are very articulate, and a lot of the guests that we've had on the show are very articulate and really good speakers, and really good speakers. I mean, it's like people go to Toastmasters and they get nervous talking in front of people a lot, like typically developing people, whereas I'm like, wow, you guys are really, really articulate, you really get your point across well. Some of the guests on the show, and you actually publicly speaking. It's interesting because a lot of my friends, who don't know much about autism, who are just watching it to support me, they're like, wow, I didn't know people with autism could do that. I mean, it was because there's this perception that people with autism have this disability, and because communication is one of the initial things that children with autism struggle with, I think the perception is that that carries for all people through adulthood, and that's just not true. There are some people with autism that will, not grow up having sufficient language skills, but most adults with autism really can not only can communicate but are good speakers. So what do you think about that? Like, can you share a little message for people that are watching this that don't know much about autism? I mean, tell them, like, what is it really like to have autism?
So what it's really like, in my early years, my life was completely different back then. I was I was diagnosed with autism when it was like before my second birthday. And I was diagnosed with it in Downstate Hospital in Brooklyn, New York, because I was born in Brooklyn. So back then, like all my what I was going through, like I wasn't really like aware of the world around me. I wasn't like I was pretty much in my own world, lacked eye contact. I was nonverbal until I was 6 years old, and I like it was completely like different. Like I was so dependent. I had all of the therapies and everything received. Like I had ABA therapy when I was younger and stuff. And then now, like throughout my years, I like progressed a lot in my through experiences and everything, and grown academically too in school, like becoming more included in classes and everything. And then now today, I've done keynote speeches for a lot of special education organizations and everything all over New Jersey since I was 18. And the message is that like don't give up on a person that on an individual that's living with autism, because you don't know what they're capable of, and like they can show their own personality in their own ways too, and just about like acceptance and awareness and just like educating is extremely important.
Yeah, I mean, it's critical. And it's interesting because I've even heard therapists tell parents, well, your child's not talking by 5, chances are they're not going to talk, right? But then you're saying, well, I was nonverbal until not non-vocal until 6, and now you're giving keynote speeches. So I think it gives parents who are watching this, the hope and the fortitude not to give up on their child and not to just assume that their child isn't going to amount to anything or not going to be able to take care of themselves or not be able to do the things they want to do. Their journey may look different, but for many people living with autism, I feel like the outcome can still be really positive and, it can still be really fulfilled. So you say that you had ABA therapy. Now, I know that people with autism, adults with autism, depending especially when you grew up, some people have a really positive perception of their therapies and a positive perception of particularly ABA. And some people who might have received it earlier when there was no standard for it, the BCBA or BAC didn't exist yet. If you're watching, that it's the board, the Association of Behavior Analysts, where they have these guidelines and ethical principles. And punishment was an accepted modality, including aversive punishments like electric shocks. And so people have this horrible perception about ABA, and the truth is it's nothing like that today. In fact, if you were to watch me doing ABA and someone who's like really highly skilled and trained and who believes in a very naturalistic approach to it, I would bet you that you wouldn't know what I was doing unless you were trained in picking up on it. It just looks like I'm playing with cats. But, from your experience, was it a positive one? Did you receive that good ABA therapy or did you receive not so good ABA therapy?
I'm gonna be really honest. I do not remember that much of my experiences with my therapies, like including ABA, because I was so young when I received it. But I think a lot of it, like just growing up and stuff, and like the reason why I went into the field that I am in now is because a lot of it is about with giving back from what I received over the years, and especially in school and stuff. Like the school district that I was in New Jersey, like I was so thankful I was part of that school district because they helped me grow as a student, like with all my services and everything. But like I was giving back because I wanted, like for me, I always knew purpose of me was that to help others that are just living as they are as individuals and stuff that, with autism and stuff. So this is like one of the main purposes why I work with students with autism and everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I like how what you just said is like people are just living as they are. And it's interesting because on the very first show, and I don't know if you got to see it, I had Ryan Schindler on. And I did realize while you were speaking, you're the first woman on the show. So I just want to point that out.
Wow.
So, yeah, so you get to be the pioneer woman on the show. But that's a sidebar. So getting back to what I was saying, so Ryan had said, I'm so tired of people just saying that I'm an inspiration because I have autism and I'm working. He's like, I'm just living my life. I'm not trying to be an inspiration. I'm just living my life. And it seems to be this common theme. And that you're living your life, that these kids are just living their life. They're being who they are. And I think it's different for people who are neurotypical to actually understand that, and so as a person who has autism, who's living with autism, you're uniquely qualified to work with children with autism because you have a better understanding of what's going on in their head and how they're feeling because you lived it, right? And so I might be able to be empathetic because I can try to say, okay, well, I'm going to try to kind of realize, all right, well, I'm going to put myself in their shoes. But the truth is I can't really fully understand it because I haven't experienced it. Right? I've run ultra marathons. I've run over 100 miles. And when people tell me who say, what is that like? And I'm just literally well, you literally can only think about one foot in front of the other. Literally there's nothing else you can think about, just one foot in front of another. It's the only thing you can think about. And I can describe that, but unless you actually do it, you can't really understand it. So for you, working with children with autism, when you have a child who's maybe having a sensory overload or a child who's having a meltdown, maybe it's like a school assembly and they just can't be in the room. So how do you can you tell us a little bit from your perspective, from how you felt, what are these kids feeling?
Okay, so I've seen it in my experiences already as it is and it happens a lot. The environment can be a little overwhelming because there's a lot that comes into the auditory where they have with you hear noises everywhere from classrooms next door like that, and the noises of for example with the assembly, there's overcrowdedness, noises, and so much visuals that are going on that it could cause a lot where it could be overwhelming, that it causes a sensory overload and it makes the child shut down and everything. And with that being said, it's just a matter of where the space, how do I put it? Where I have a child, I have one of my students that uses with headphones so that way it blocks out of all the sensory when it comes to hearing and everything, or with that's it.
Yeah, so just modifying the environment, but it just being overwhelming, really. And I think that we can understand that. Everybody can understand that because I think everyone's just been overwhelmed by sound. And I have a good friend of mine, and he might even be watching this, that he lives right on the parkway, literally right on the parkway. And so he invited me over for a campfire in his backyard. And I had to tell him, I was I'm so sorry, but I cannot stay here. I was the sounds of the car were driving me absolutely out of my mind. I could not tolerate that sound. And I feel it's probably not necessarily different, but amplified for someone with autism. So whereas my situation was seemingly very extreme for me because it was just car after car after car after car. It was commuting time too. So it was just 1,000 cars per minute. I mean, you know the parkway because you live in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just was nonstop. I feel if that's what it's all the time for everyday sounds, that's really hard. And I had I didn't have a meltdown. I just calmly told him let's go inside and watch a movie where it's quiet in the house. But I can imagine that if that's what I was experiencing all day, every day, I probably would. So I can kind of have more of an understanding of, okay, so that's what it's like. Where it's people who are, you go to the dentist and that sound of the drill, it annoys people. And I can't experience, I have not actually never had a cavity. So I have never had that experience, thankfully. But I've had friends that are just oh, I can't take it. And I don't, so I'm okay, well, imagine that all the time. And that's kind of, is that an accurate, and that's what I tell parents. Am I correct? Is that an accurate assessment of the situation? If not, tell me no that I'm wrong. That's what this is about. I mean, if I am wrong as a professional, I want to be told, hey, no, you're wrong, so I don't keep giving parents wrong answers. It is okay to tell me that I'm wrong. I mean, that's what this show is about. It's about the gap of like what we're getting right, but what we're getting wrong is most important.
Right. I just like when it comes to like with noises like that, with like cavities and everything. Like it's just that people have to learn ways to like modify the environment, like just to like understand the student or the child's needs and stuff. That's what's important. It's like where they're like just being observant and like what like looking at what they're doing, like and like see how like their behaviors and everything, like what's going on, like what in the environment is like causing a behavior or something. So it just like so like with the cavities, like when the noise and stuff would be too much, like yeah, you have to see like and try different things where like wearing a headphones, for example, with that.
Yeah. And I don't mean like the cavity noise itself, but using that as an analogy, like is that what people with autism are experiencing all the time? Like that sound that annoys us, that gets us on edge, and we're like, is that what it's like literally like walking through the hall in between classes in high school when there's like tons of stimulation going on?
I feel like it does, like just like we've been talking about, everybody with autism, it's different for everybody because every individual with autism is unique. Everybody has like different things that like that could, others don't have this problem, like with this sensory overload, which this happens in my classroom. Like there's some students that have this problem, like that has about with the noises and everything, and then there's others where like it's more of based on with like sensory sensitivity, like with touch or like with touch or taste, and it's different for everyone. It's just that you have to get to know the individual.
Yeah, and that's a big one to be aware of as a professional or parent, is that some children love with autism. I've heard people say like, oh, well, people with autism love to be tickled. And then I have someone who is a friend of mine who has autism, and he actually loves to be tickled. And even as an adult, like he does that with his friends, and that's something he does and he enjoys, whereas like then I have other people say like, oh, well, people with autism hate to be touched. And I'm like, well, no, everyone's different. And, one of the quotes we say every week on this show, and I think everyone brings it up, is if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism, right? That everyone is uniquely different. And I feel like it comes as this like massive shock, but I feel like that's how it is in the neurotypical world too. I mean, it's like some women love the color pink. I'm wearing a flannel shirt and like cameo pants underneath, right? I like the color green. And for me, hey, it's the color of the money. It's color of nature. Like that's my favorite color. Like I have no need for pink clothes or like pink stuff. It's just not my thing, So I feel like, why does it come as such a shock to people that people with autism have different interests when everyone has different interests, right? So for me, it's like making those generalizations. And I think understanding that we can't make generalizations in general about people, not just with autism, but accepting and loving everyone as who they are, and realizing that every person living on this planet is uniquely individual and has unique interests and needs. And I know, what's your take on that?
I agree with you about that. Everybody is unique in their own ways. Everybody's has different talents and gifts that they possess in their own ways, and it doesn't matter if you live with autism or with any disability, or even being a neurotypical. Like it's the same thing. Like no matter what, you're a human being. Everybody has their own interests and stuff. Like we could, even though like we do build connections and stuff that where shared interests come and everything, but the point is that no matter what, like everybody is unique in their own ways. And just to point out about with like saying about myself as an individual, like I'm no different. Like I'm not, like I'm different in my own way, but like it's different, not less.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And that's like Temple Grandin's quote is like, I'm different, not less.
Exactly.
And I think it's just also needs to be this understanding that everybody is different, right? And like no two people are the same. And the same way, like it's like if you they say like, well, if you've met one person with autism, met one person with autism, but it's also like if you've met one woman, you've met one woman, right? If you met one man, you've met one man. And it seems to be this concept that's like super easy to understand. Like, oh, well, not all women are the same, or not all men are the same. But then it's when it comes to people with autism, we want to make generalizations. So it doesn't seem to make sense. But so on the note of like continuing to talk about, you know, what people think about autism. Now you said that in your school experience, you grew up in a very good district. You were very happy with the services you received. Are there things though, maybe even individuals or maybe just parents or, you know, kids in the classroom that you were with at the time that you wish they would have known about autism when you were a child? So and I'm asking this for the, on behalf of the children I work with, you know, what do they wish or what will they wish that their parents knew?
Um, it's just about with like just understanding them at like again it goes back to just understanding them as an individual. Like there are some like like just understanding like their like who they are as a human being, like what their interests are. And that's where like I want to bring in about with like just inclusion in general because it like to be part of something and like to not feel like alone, left out and everything because like you know nowadays like there's about with like issues about with bullying that's been going on in the community and stuff just because that they're an individual that lives with autism, for example, that there's been like increase about with bullying and stuff. And it's just the point with that is that like just to accept them as an individual and like to learn about them not for their personality, their what they like and everything, and just just to know like uh that yeah there's going to be some things, some like everybody's got their that has their flaws in their own ways too. And it's just we're just understanding the person as a whole.
Yeah. And you know, bullying is hard today because, you know, and I was bullied as a child. I was. And I, you know, I don't have autism, but I do have my own set of a neurological condition that as a child, you know, I felt different than other kids. And I certainly I acted different than other kids. I had different interests. And, you know, for me, like there was a certain social disability that came with my certain condition that I have. And then also, but I had a very high IQ, so I didn't really relate well to children my age. And so I was bullied in school. But the thing about it is that when you got off the bus, there was no more bullying, right? Everything was, you were disconnected. And it's just the same way like your employer couldn't get in touch with you 10 years ago at like 5 o'clock when the work ended. But today, everything is connected. So bullying doesn't stop for kids. Like there's no safe place because they go home and they're being bullied on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and people are DMing them and it's like ridiculous. Like there's no end to it. So, you know, what would you say as a person with autism who you said you did experience some bullying as a child?
Yeah, so like there was it was actually like there was times where I was like kind of like isolated. Like people would think that like for example, I actually came back into my town school district. I was formerly at a special education school called Children's Center in Monmouth County. It's a school in Neptune, New Jersey, and I came back into my town school district because of how much I'd grown. But when I was a new kid, like I was getting, I was that's where like people were like, "Why are you stealing my friends and stuff?" Like it was actually I had some nice classmates that came up to me and stuff because I was just a new kid, like there and stuff. I was shy, but like I I it's just that I had classmates that were like, "Why are you stealing my friends? You know I wasn't doing anything." and 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 honestly, like as I gotten older and stuff, like it was more of my early high school years where it was kind of where that was worse. Like the bullying was like kind of worse.
What would you say to a parent who's watching this, whose child is in those early high school years and is being bullied? How can that parent best support their child?
So I know with my own experience, my parents, like they actually reached out to my school's psychologist and everything, and like we talked over about the experiences that was going on, like and like I came to them and stuff. Like I told my parents what happened and this was going on and stuff. Like because I was starting my freshman year of high school, and like I it was just I thought that this person was my friend, but it turned out that they pretty much weren't and everything. They were spreading rumors about me and everything, and it was terrible. It really was. I so I told my parents about it, reached out to my school psychologist, and like I went to them and stuff because we trusted them.
Yeah, and my parents actually did the same thing for me when I was being bullied. And you know, it's interesting because I think I'm a little bit older than you. I don't know how old you are, but I think I'm a little bit older than you. And you know, it's interesting because as you get older, you don't remember the bullies and you don't remember what they said anymore. But I think the self-esteem, the effects to your self-esteem, that does, you know, persist into adulthood. And it's something I've had to work really hard, you know, hard to. And even just like doing this show, you know, still I have these limiting beliefs of like, do I look okay? And today, like, you know, in New Jersey, like I said, it's snowing. The day got away from me and I didn't have time to do my hair and makeup before the show. And I almost didn't even want to do it, but I'm like, no, because the message is more important than how I look. So I'm going to come on here raw and real. But that self-esteem, that ding to my self-esteem, it's still there. And it's something I still have to work on every day. So I think helping children to have a positive self-image and self-esteem, and you know, a parent and teachers, if you're reinforcing that a child is amazing, they can do anything, be anything, have anything, that there's greatness in them, you know, they'll grow up believing that. And you know, one of
Right.
the quotes I have on my Instagram, if you check me out on Instagram, which is just Hope Education Services, and it says that parents, if can I have the same thing? I have a video on my YouTube channel with the same principle because I'm so big believer in this principle, is children believe what you say about them. So as a parent, if you tell your child they have autism and they have limitations, they're going to believe that. But if you tell your child you have autism and you can be, do, and have anything you want, because there's greatness inside of you, and you may be harder and your story may look different than everybody else's, but it's going to have an amazing happy ending and you get to decide what that ending is, they'll believe that too.
Yeah, I absolutely. It's about we have to be so careful about what you tell to a child. Like even if they live with autism or not, you still have to be careful about what you tell to a child because that will affect their self-esteem and confidence and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, we're running to the point where it's a 30-minute show, so I do have to cut this short, although I'm enjoying our conversation. Since we're local, I'd love to like pick your dinner or buy you dinner and pick your brain and even just be friends, that we're local, so close to each other. Um, so, you know, is there anything else you wanted to just share and add, maybe a question I didn't ask that was on your heart to with the audience?
I just want to share that I about that not only like I'm a paraprofessional, I also have done keynote speeches too, like all over New Jersey. I actually have I'm an autism blogger as well. My blog series is called the World of Autism. It's pretty much like I talk about like not only from my personal experiences of living with autism in my life. I also share from the professional view because I work as a paraprofessional for students with autism. So I'm giving both ways.
Awesome. So how could people get your content? If you want, just so you know, if you miss what's being said, I'm going to put the links to it. So make sure you get me those links. The links will be there. And I'll also make sure when I send this out to my list and put this on YouTube, if you're watching this live on Facebook or you're watching this on TV, because we actually are on local television now, go to getautismanswers.com. That's my YouTube channel. But where else can they get your blog?
they can also follow on my blog is through WordPress, and they can also follow my social media accounts called Exceptional Shell. That's what I call myself.
Okay, awesome, Exceptional Shell. And what's your website address?
um, I do not I don't have on my
For
WordPress.
WordPress, yeah, for WordPress.
Oh, exceptionalshell .com.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So, and I'll have that in the comments of this video if you're watching it on YouTube. So don't worry about it. And if you're on my list, you'll get a copy of it. So awesome. And if you're not on my list, you have to get on my list. Jump onto hopeeducationservices.com. I'll send you a free gift just for doing that. I send you the first chapter of my book, and you'll also get a replay of this episode, and you'll get Shell. Is that what you like to be called, Shell?
That's my nickname, Shell.
Shell. Okay, so you'll get Shell's blog post. So Shell, thank you so much for being on this call today. I mean, it's amazing, this TV show. I'm so excited. And I really, for me, the fact that you reached out to me, you're the first person who requested to be on the show. So for me, this shows me that this is working. We're really bridging the gap, and I'm so excited about it. So thank you so much. I really hope I earned your time on here today, and that this is meaningful to somebody.
And thank you. I hope that this will keep on educating about with autism.
Yeah, that's the goal. So if you're watching this, please share this video on your social media. Share with people you know, even if they don't have autism, even if they don't know someone with autism, even more of a reason to share this. The only way to make a change in the world is by education. When people realize that what makes us the same is bigger than what makes us different, that's where unity begins. So thank you so much, Shell, for being on here, and I look forward to seeing everyone next week. Again, this premieres at 9 p.m. on Facebook, on YouTube. If you have YouTube, you might find me on Facebook. It'll be on there too. But it'll be YouTube. It premieres 9 p.m. Eastern time every Sunday night. So thanks so much.